Commander Jake Sullivan stepped out of the transport shuttle and looked around in wonder. The space station was bigger than anything he had ever seen. Nexus Prime stretched out in all directions, its metal walls gleaming under the light of distant stars. This was the center of galactic civilization, home to the Galactic Council that ruled over 12 different alien species. Jake, Earth, had spent 50 years preparing for this meeting. Their best scientists, diplomats, and military officers had all worked together to make this possible. Ambassador Lisa Martinez walked beside him, carrying a datapad with humanity's application. She had been Earth's top diplomat for 20 years. If anyone could convince the aliens to accept humans, it was her. Captain Rick Adams followed close behind, his military uniform crisp and clean. He was there to show that humans could be strong when needed. The hallway was enormous. Creatures from across the galaxy moved past them, heading to their own business. There were tall, thin creatures with 6 arms and skin like tree bark. Some aliens floated in the air without any visible means of support. Others crawled along the walls on dozens of tiny legs. "Remember," Lisa said quietly, "we're here to prove that humans deserve a place in the galactic community. We've come in peace, and we want to stay that way." They entered the council chamber, and Jake's breath caught in his throat. The room was shaped like a giant sphere, with platforms floating at different levels. Each platform held representatives from one of the 12-member species. At the center of the room, a single platform waited for the human delegation. The humans took their places, as hundreds of alien eyes turned to watch them. Jake felt small and out of place, but he kept his back straight and his face calm. This was humanity's moment. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. "The Galactic Council recognizes the delegation from Earth. You may present your case for membership." Lisa stepped forward and activated her datapad. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing images of Earth and its achievements. "Honored members of the Council," she began, "humanity comes before you today seeking membership. In your great alliance, we have traveled far to reach this moment." The display showed Earth's cities, its art, its technology. Lisa spoke about human achievements in medicine, science, and exploration. She talked about their first steps into space, their colonies on Mars and the Moon, and their recent development of faster-than-light travel. "We have much to offer the galactic community," Lisa continued. "Our scientists have made breakthroughs in energy production and medical technology. Our engineers have developed new methods of space construction. Most importantly, we come in peace, seeking friendship and cooperation with all species." When she finished, the chamber fell silent. Jake could feel the weight of countless alien eyes studying them. He had expected questions, perhaps some discussion. Instead, there was only silence. Finally, a delegate from the Zelkari species spoke. The creature looked like a giant insect, with multiple eyes and clicking mandibles. "The Zelkari have reviewed your application," it said in a voice like grinding metal. "Your species is very young. You have barely left your home system. Your technology is primitive compared to ours." Another delegate, this one from the Thraxian species, joined the conversation. The Thraxian looked like a living crystal, its body reflecting light in rainbow patterns. "More concerning is your species. Nature," it said. "Our observations show that humans avoid conflict whenever possible. You negotiate when you should fight, compromise when you should dominate. You retreat when you should advance." Rick Adams tensed beside Jake. The captain's jaw was tight, but he remained silent as Lisa had instructed. They had prepared for criticism, but not this kind of personal attack. "The galaxy is not a place for the weak," continued the Thraxian. "We fight for what we believe in. We do not back down from challenges. Your species lacks the warrior spirit necessary for galactic citizenship." Delegate from the Corvin species, an amphibious creature with smooth, wet skin, spoke next. "The humans prefer to talk rather than fight. They seek peaceful solutions. 2 problems that require strength. This is the behavior of cowards, not galactic citizens." Jake felt his face grow hot with anger. These aliens were calling his entire species cowards. Humans had fought wars, explored dangerous worlds, and risked their lives for discovery and progress. They were not cowards. Lisa kept her voice steady. We believe that peaceful solutions are often better than violent ones. We have ended wars through negotiation and built alliances. Through understanding, the Zelkari delegate clicked its mandibles dismissively. Cooperation is a luxury that only the strong can afford. In this galaxy, the weak are consumed by the strong. Your species would not survive the first real challenge. Other delegates began to speak, each one dismissing humanity's application. They called humans soft, weak, and unprepared for galactic life. They said Earth's people were too cautious, too peaceful, too afraid to take risks. The vote was swift and unanimous. All 12 species rejected humanity's application for membership. The decision was final, and there would be no appeal. As the council session ended, Jake felt crushing disappointment. They had come so far, worked so hard, only to be rejected and insulted. The dreams of 50 years had been destroyed in less than an hour. The human delegation prepared to leave the chamber. Their heads were held high, but their hearts were heavy. As they walked toward the exit, an elderly Corvin approached them. This one was different from the delegate who had spoken earlier. Its skin was darker, marked with the scars of age and experience. Ambassador Martinez, the Corvin said quietly, "I am Elder Voss. I wished to speak with you before you departed." Lisa stopped and turned to face the alien. "What can I do for you, Elder?" The Corvin looked around nervously, then stepped closer. "There are whispers in the deep places of the galaxy," it said. "Ancient sensors have detected movement in the void between galaxies. Something stirs there, something that has slept for millions of years." Jake exchanged glances with his companions. "What kind of something?" "We do not know," Elder Voss replied. "But there are legends, stories passed down from the earliest days of galactic civilization. They speak of devourers that consume entire worlds of darkness that spreads across the stars. Most believe these are just myths, but some of us are not so sure." The elder looked directly at Lisa. "Your species' caution may serve you better than our pride. The galaxy may need a different kind of strength in the days to come." With those mysterious words, Elder Voss turned and walked away, leaving the humans to wonder what the future might hold. 3 months had passed since the humiliating rejection at Nexus Prime. Commander Jake Sullivan sat in his office on Earth, reading reports from human colonies scattered across nearby star systems, despite the Council's refusal to accept them. Humanity continued to expand quietly into space. They had learned to rely on themselves. Dr. Amy Foster worked late in the communications center aboard the research vessel Columbia. The ship was stationed at the edge of human space, monitoring alien transmissions as part of Earth's intelligence gathering program. Amy had spent years learning alien languages and communication patterns. Her job was to keep track of what the galactic community was doing. The night shift was usually quiet. Alien species sent routine messages about trade, weather reports, and everyday business. Amy had grown used to the constant chatter of 12 different civilizations, talking to each other across the stars. That was why she noticed immediately when everything went silent. At exactly 0347 hours, every alien communication channel stopped. Broadcasting at the same time, Amy sat up straight in her chair, checking her equipment. All the systems were working perfectly. The silence was real. "Computer, run a full diagnostic on all communication arrays," she said. The computer's voice responded calmly. "All systems functioning normally? No technical malfunctions detected?" Amy felt a chill run down her spine. In 3 years of monitoring alien communications, she had never seen anything like this. Even during the worst diplomatic crises, the aliens never stopped talking completely. She opened a channel to Earth Command. "This is Dr. Foster, aboard the Columbia. I need to speak with Colonel Parker immediately. We have a situation." Lieutenant Colonel Ben Parker was awakened in his quarters on Luna Base as Earth's chief military intelligence officer. He was used to emergency calls, but something in Amy's voice made him sit up quickly. "What's happening, Doctor?" he asked. "Alien communications have gone dark," Amy replied. "Every channel, every species, everything stopped at the same time 3 minutes ago. I've never seen anything like this." Ben was already getting dressed. "Could it be some kind of coordinated blackout?" Maybe they're trying to keep us from listening in. I don't think so, Amy said. This feels different, like they all stopped talking because something happened to them. Ben made his way to the command center, where night shift officers were already investigating the communication blackout. Similar reports were coming in from human monitoring stations throughout the solar system. The entire galactic community had gone silent. Sir, called Lieutenant Tony Davis from his station. I'm picking up some kind of transmission from the outer rim. It's very faint, and it's not using any known alien language. Put it on the main screen, Ben ordered. The transmission was mostly static, but they could make out images of massive ships moving through space. The vessels were unlike anything in human or alien databases. They looked organic, as if they'd been grown rather than built. Black metal flowed like liquid over surfaces that pulsed with strange energy. My God, whispered Amy, who had arrived on the next transport from the Columbia. What are those things? The transmission cut out, leaving only static. Ben stared at the empty screen, feeling a growing sense of dread. Elder Voss's warning echoed in his mind. Something was stirring in the void between galaxies. Over the next few hours, more transmissions trickled in from the outer rim. Each one showed the same thing: massive fleets of unknown ships moving through space, consuming everything in their path. Planets disappeared, their matter somehow converted into energy that fed the alien vessels. Admiral Tony Clark sat in Earth's primary monitoring station, watching the scattered reports with growing alarm. The alien ships, which human analysts had started calling devourers, seemed to adapt to every weapon used against them. The proud Zelkari battle fleets had engaged them first, using their most advanced plasma cannons. The weapons worked for a few minutes, then became completely useless as the devourers adapted their defenses. They're learning, Admiral Clark said to his staff. Every time someone shoots at them, they figure out how to stop that weapon from working. Communications. Analyst Maria Santos had been working around the clock to translate the few alien messages that were still getting through. Most were desperate evacuation orders or final farewells. The Thraxian Empire, which had called humans cowards just months ago, broadcast their last transmission with typical pride. We die with honor, as warriors should, came the translation. Our crystal cities burn, but we face the darkness without fear. May others learn from our sacrifice. The Corvin homeworld lasted longer than most, using their advanced defensive technology to hold off the invaders. But even they could not stop the relentless advance. Elder Voss's final message was addressed specifically to Earth. To the humans. Who came before our council? The translation read. We were wrong to call you cowards. These devourers adapt to everything we throw at them. Our weapons become useless within minutes of first contact. Nothing we know can stop them. They consume entire star systems, turning matter into energy to fuel their advance. The message continued with technical data about the devourers' capabilities. Amy and her team worked frantically to decode the information before the transmission was cut short. The Corvin are gone, Maria announced quietly. That was their last broadcast. Within weeks, 8 of the 12 council species had been completely wiped out. The remaining 4 sent desperate messages throughout the galaxy, warning everyone to hide and run. The once-proud galactic civilization was collapsing faster than anyone had thought possible. Captain Steve Walsh led a meeting of Earth's top military commanders. The question on everyone's mind was simple. What should humanity do? Every species that fought them used the same tactics, Steve said, pointing to tactical displays showing the various battles. Massive fleets, advanced weapons, direct confrontation. They all failed within hours. General Helen Brooks, Earth's top military strategist, studied the data carefully. The devourers adapt to whatever they encounter. They've faced 12 different alien military doctrines and countered all of them, but they've never encountered human warfare. What makes us different? Asked Colonel Parker. Every galactic species fights the same way, Helen replied. They build big ships, arm them with the best weapons they have, and charge straight at their enemies. It's all about honor and courage and meeting your foe face to face. She paused, looking around the room at the assembled officers. Omboons. Don't fight that way? We've never fought that way. We're outgunned. We don't charge into battle hoping to die with honor. We hide, We plan. We hit our enemies where they don't expect it. Admiral Clark nodded slowly. You're talking about asymmetrical warfare on a galactic scale? Exactly, Helen said. The aliens called us cowards because we prefer to negotiate rather than fight. But when we do fight, we don't fight fair. We fight to win. Dr. Kevin Ross, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, had been studying the Devourer attack patterns. They adapt to whatever they encounter, but they've only encountered honorable combat. They've never faced an enemy that lies, cheats, and uses dirty tricks. A plan began to form in the room. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of massive fleets and superweapons, humanity would fight a shadow war. They would study their enemy carefully, strike from unexpected angles, and never give the Devourers a chance to adapt to their tactics. We'll need volunteers, Admiral, Clark said. This won't be a glorious war with medals and parades. It'll be dangerous, dirty work. A lot of good people are going to die, and no one will ever know their names. Captain Rick Adams, who had remained silent during the rejection at Nexus Prime, finally spoke up. The aliens called us cowards because we don't seek glory in battle. Maybe it's time to show them what real courage looks like. As the meeting ended, reports continued to arrive from the Outer Rim. The Devourers were advancing steadily through the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. Soon, they would reach human space, but for the first time since the crisis began, humanity had a plan. It was a plan that no alien species would have considered, because it required abandoning everything they believed about honor and warfare. The last transmission from the surviving Council species arrived as the human fleet prepared to deploy. It was short and desperate. The Devourers cannot be fought. Hide, survive. We were wrong about strength. But humanity had no intention of hiding. They were going to fight back, using the one advantage they had always possessed, but never valued. The ability to fight dirty when survival was on the line. President Helen Brooks stood before the United Earth Defense Council in the underground bunker beneath Geneva. The room was packed with military officers, scientists, and government officials from every nation on Earth. Outside, the world held its breath as humanity prepared to make the most important decision in its history. Ladies and gentlemen, President Brooks began, we all know why we're here. The galaxy is dying. In less than 3 months, creatures we're calling Devourers have wiped out 8 alien civilizations. The remaining 4 are in full retreat, abandoning their worlds to save whatever population they can. She activated the main display, showing a map of the galaxy with red zones marking Devourer-controlled space. The red was spreading like an infection, consuming everything in its path. These Devourers will reach human space within 6 months, she continued. We have a choice to make. We can follow the example of the alien species and evacuate our colonies, hoping to hide somewhere in deep space. Or we can stand and fight. General Steve Walsh stood up from his seat. He was Earth's most experienced military commander, a veteran of the Mars colonial wars and the Jupiter mining conflicts. Madam President, with respect, every species that has fought these things has been destroyed.
Oh.
The Zelkari had 10,000 warships. The Thraxians had weapons that could crack planets in half. None of it mattered. That's exactly my point, General, replied Dr. Kevin Ross from his position near the front of the room. Kevin had spent the last month studying every piece of data about the Devourers that humanity could gather. Every species fought the same way. They used their biggest ships, their most powerful weapons, their most advanced technology. They fought with honor and courage, meeting their enemies face to face. He walked to the display and pointed at the battle reports. Look at the patterns. The Zelkari charged straight at the Devourer fleet in perfect formation. The Thraxians positioned their crystal ships in traditional battle lines. The Corvin used coordinated strikes with their entire navy. Every single species fought exactly how their military traditions told them to fight. Admiral Tony Clark leaned forward in his seat. They all lost because the Devourers adapted to their tactics within minutes. Exactly, Kevin said. But there's something these aliens never considered. What if we don't fight fair? What if we don't follow any military traditions at all? A murmur went through the room. Captain Nina Bell, who who had earned her reputation in the brutal underground fighting during the Mars Rebellion, smiled grimly. "You're talking about guerrilla warfare. Hit-and-run tactics. Fighting dirty." "I'm talking about fighting to win," Kevin replied. "The aliens called us cowards because we prefer negotiation to battle. They said we lack the warrior spirit because we retreat when we're outgunned. But what they saw as cowardice, I see as intelligence." President Brooks nodded. "Explain your thinking, Doctor." Kevin activated his own presentation, showing human military history. "Look at how humans have always fought when we're facing a superior enemy. We don't charge into hopeless battles. We hide in forests and strike supply lines. We use the enemy's strength against them. We lie, we cheat, we do whatever it takes to survive." The display showed images from human history: Vietnamese fighters hiding in tunnels, Native American warriors using hit-and-run tactics against European armies, resistance fighters sabotaging Nazi operations during World War II. Every time humans have faced an enemy with better weapons and larger armies, we've found ways to win by not fighting fair, Kevin continued. The Devourers have adapted to every form of conventional warfare in the galaxy, but they've never faced an enemy that refuses to fight conventionally. Captain Rick Adams, who had been silent during most of the meeting, finally spoke. "What exactly are you proposing, Doctor?" "I'm proposing that we do what humans do best," Kevin answered. "We study our enemy carefully. We find their weaknesses. Then we exploit those weaknesses in ways they'll never expect." General Walsh frowned. "The Devourers don't seem to have any weaknesses. They adapt to everything. They adapt to direct attacks," corrected Dr. Amy Foster, who had been monitoring alien communications since the crisis began. "But adaptation takes time. Every report shows the same pattern. First few minutes of any battle, alien weapons work normally. Then the Devourers adjust their defenses, and those same weapons become useless." She stood and walked to the display. "What if we never give them time to adapt? What if every attack is completely different from the last one? What if we hit them with something new every single time?" Captain Luke Johnson, one of Earth's best intelligence officers, was taking notes rapidly. "You're talking about using completely different tactics for every engagement, never repeating the same strategy twice." "More than that," Amy said. "I'm talking about attacks that don't look like military operations at all. The Devourers have learned to counter plasma cannons, particle beams, and nuclear missiles. But have they ever seen a cargo ship filled with self-replicating nanobots? Have they ever faced a computer virus designed to confuse their communication systems?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't warfare as the galaxy understood it. This was something completely new. Commander Jake Sullivan, who had led humanity's failed diplomatic mission, stood up slowly. "You're asking us to abandon everything the galactic community believes about honorable combat. The galactic community is dead," President Brooks said bluntly. "Honor and tradition got them killed. If we want to survive, we need to fight like humans, not like aliens." Dr. Ross pulled up the final part of his presentation. "I've been working with our best tactical minds to develop what we're calling Operation Lazarus. The name means rising from the dead, which is fitting since the galaxy thinks we're too weak to matter. The plan that unfolded on the screen was unlike anything ever attempted in galactic history. Instead of massive fleets, humanity would use small, undetectable ships. Instead of superweapons, they would employ viruses, sabotage, and psychological warfare. Instead of heroic battles, they would fight a shadow war that the Devourers would never see coming. Phase 1 involves intelligence gathering," Jake explained. His diplomatic skills now focused on military planning. "We send out scout ships disguised as civilian vessels. They follow Devourer fleets at a distance, studying patterns and behavior. Phase 2 is testing," added Captain Bell. "We try different attack methods on isolated Devourer ships. Each attack is designed to fail, but not before we learn something new about their defenses. Phase 3 is the real war," concluded General Walsh, who was warming to the unconventional strategy. "We hit them with everything we've learned, using tactics that change constantly. Never give them time to adapt, because we never do the same thing twice." President Brooks looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. "This plan will require volunteers for suicide missions. It will mean sending our people into battles they probably won't survive. And if we fail, humanity dies with us." She paused, letting the weight of the decision settle on everyone present. "But if we succeed, we'll have done something no other species in galactic history has accomplished. We'll have fought back against an unstoppable enemy and won." The vote was closer than expected. Many officials argued for evacuation, for hiding in deep space until the Devourers moved on to other galaxies. But in the end, humanity chose to fight. As the meeting ended, Admiral Clark approached President Brooks privately. "Madam President, are we really going to base our entire strategy on the hope that fighting dirty will save us?" President Brooks looked at the tactical displays still showing the spreading red zones of Devourer control. "Admiral, for 3 months we've watched the galaxy's greatest warriors charge bravely to their deaths. Honor and courage got them nowhere." She turned to face him directly. "Maybe it's time to show the universe what cowards can accomplish when they're fighting for their lives." The next morning, humanity began preparing for a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. It would be fought in shadows and silence, with lies and tricks, instead of honor and glory. It was exactly the kind of war that had gotten humans called cowards in the first place. But as the old human saying went, sometimes you had to fight fire with fire. And if the Devourers wanted to consume the galaxy, they were about to learn what happened when they tried to swallow something that fought back from the inside. 6 months after the Devourer invasion began, the galaxy was almost completely silent. The last free alien worlds prepared for their final moments as the dark ships moved closer. On Earth, humanity launched Operation Lazarus with a single modified cargo ship heading toward the Procyon system. Lieutenant Sam Foster piloted the cargo vessel Peaceful Trader through empty space. The ship looked ordinary from the outside, just another human merchant vessel carrying supplies between colonies. The Devourers had learned to ignore such ships, seeing them as harmless prey to be consumed later. Sam's hands were steady on the controls, but his heart was racing. This was the first real test of humanity's new strategy. Everything they had planned depended on this mission working exactly right. Approaching the Procyon system, he reported over the radio. "I can see the Devourer fleet. They're stripping the dead planet, just like the report said." Admiral Tony Clark watched from Earth Command as Sam's ship entered the system. Dozens of massive Devourer vessels floated around the lifeless world, using strange energy beams to break down the planet's surface and convert it into fuel for their fleet. "Remember, Sam," Admiral Clark said into his microphone. "A lost cargo ship looking for a place to hide. Don't do anything that looks threatening." "Understood, sir," Sam replied. Beginning the approach now, the Peaceful Trader drifted toward the Devourer fleet, sending out standard distress signals. The dark ships ignored it completely, just as human intelligence had predicted. The Devourers had encountered thousands of fleeing refugee ships over the past months. One more didn't matter to them. Sam guided his ship into the middle of the enemy formation, right where the tactical computer said it would do the most damage. His cargo hold was filled with millions of tiny machines called nanobots, each one programmed with a single task: find biomechanical systems and interfere with them. "In position," Sam announced, releasing the cargo in 3, 2, 1. The cargo bay doors opened, and a cloud of microscopic robots spread out through space. They were invisible to the naked eye, designed to look like space dust or debris. The nanobots drifted toward the Devourer ships, carried by solar wind and gravity. For the first few minutes, nothing happened. The Devourers continued their work, unaware that millions of tiny invaders were penetrating their hulls. The nanobots were programmed to spread slowly, taking their time to avoid detection. Then the first Devourer ship began to malfunction. Its energy beams flickered and died. Warning lights flashed across its organic hull as internal systems started. Failing, the nanobots had found their targets and begun their work. "It's working," Sam reported excitedly. "The lead ship is having problems." Within an hour, the entire Devourer fleet was in chaos. Ships that had seemed invincible were spinning out of control as their systems failed one by one. Spread from ship to ship, multiplying and interfering with everything they touched. But humanity's celebration was short-lived. Admiral Clark watched his tactical display as the Devourer ships began to adapt. Their biomechanical systems learned to recognize the nanobots and destroy them. Within 2 hours, the enemy fleet was back to normal operation. "They've countered our attack," reported Dr. Amy Foster from her monitoring station. "The nanobots are no longer effective." "That's exactly what we expected," Admiral Clark replied calmly. "Sam, get out of there. Phase 2 is about to begin." As Sam's cargo ship escaped the system, Captain Julie Adams was already moving into position. With her squadron of modified fighters, each ship carried a different type of weapon, something the Devourers had never encountered before. "This is Falcon Leader," Julie announced over the radio, beginning electromagnetic pulse attack. Her ships fired specialized missiles that exploded in bursts of electromagnetic energy. The pulses were designed to temporarily disable the Devourers. Adaptive systems, the same technology that had allowed them to counter the nanobots. The effect was immediate. The Devourer ships stopped moving as their systems went offline. For exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds, the enemy fleet was completely helpless. "EMP attack successful," Julie reported. "Enemy adaptive systems are down," acknowledged Falcon Leader, came the reply from Major Paul Green, who was leading the next phase of the attack. Beginning cyber warfare assault, Paul's team had spent months studying captured Devourer technology. They had developed a computer virus specifically designed to attack the aliens' communication networks. As the EMP effects wore off and the Devourer systems came back online, the virus was already spreading through their fleet. The results were spectacular. Devourer ships began firing on each other as their communication systems delivered false, targeting information. The virus made them think their own allies were enemies, turning the fleet against itself. "Cyber attack successful," Paul reported. "Enemy fleet is engaging in friendly fire." But once again, the Devourers adapted. Their systems learned to recognize and eliminate the virus. Within hours, they had regained control of their communications and stopped attacking each other. "They've countered the cyber attack," Dr. Foster announced. "But we've gathered valuable intelligence about their adaptation speed and methods." The pattern continued across multiple star systems over the following weeks. Each human attack used completely different methods from the last. Engineer Carol Wright developed a way to turn the Devourer's own consumed matter against them, creating explosive reactions inside their hulls. The attack worked perfectly for one battle, then became useless as the enemy adapted. Pilot Danny Kim flew what appeared to be a suicide mission, crashing his fighter into a Devourer command ship. But his ship carried a special payload, a psychological warfare device that broadcasted confusing signals directly into the aliens' collective consciousness. The Devourers spent days trying to understand what had happened to their minds before they figured out how to block the signals. Captain Steve Walsh led a team that used old-fashioned explosives placed in precisely calculated positions to cause chain reactions throughout enemy formations. The Devourers adapted to that too, but not before losing several ships to what they probably thought was impossible bad luck. Each attack taught humanity something new about their enemy. The Devourers were incredibly adaptable, but their adaptation followed patterns. They needed time to analyze threats and develop countermeasures. They were most vulnerable in the first few minutes of any new type of attack. More importantly, the constant stream of different tactics was causing problems for the Devourer fleet command structure. They were spending so much time adapting to human attacks that their advance through the galaxy had slowed significantly. "Look at this," Dr. Kevin Ross said, pointing to his analysis of enemy movement patterns. "The Devourers have stopped expanding. They're consolidating their forces." "Trying to figure out what we're doing?" Admiral Clark studied the tactical display. The red zones showing Devourer control had stopped growing for the first time since the invasion began. They're confused. They don't understand why we keep attacking them with methods that are guaranteed to fail. "That's because they think like the other alien species," Dr. Ross replied. "They expect us to find one good tactic and stick with it. The idea of deliberately using tactics that will only work once is completely foreign to them." Captain Rick Adams, who had been coordinating intelligence gathering from the various attack missions, brought disturbing news. Our scouts report that the Devourers are gathering their forces at the Vega system. It looks like they're preparing for some kind of major operation. How major? President Brooks asked during the emergency briefing. Every Devourer ship we've seen over the past 6 months, Rick replied. They're bringing their entire fleet together in one place. Admiral Clark felt a chill of fear. They're planning something big. Maybe a final push to finish consuming the galaxy. Or maybe they're trying to understand us, suggested Dr. Ross. If they can't figure out our tactics by studying individual attacks, they might be planning to capture some of our ships intact. President Brooks looked at the assembled officers. Whatever they're planning, we can't let them succeed. If they figure out our methods, we lose our only advantage. I have an idea, said Commander Jake Sullivan, who had been quietly listening to the discussion. What if we give them exactly what they want? What if we attack their gathering at Vega with everything we have? It would be suicide, objected General Steve Walsh. They'll be expecting us. Exactly, Jake replied with a grim smile. They'll be expecting the same kind of small-scale attacks we've been using. They won't be expecting us to suddenly switch to conventional warfare. Admiral Clark understood immediately. You want to hit them with traditional tactics? Make them think we finally decided to fight like the other alien species. Not exactly, Jake said. I want to hit them with what looks like traditional tactics, but isn't. We make them think we're finally fighting fair. Then we show them what happens when humans really don't fight fair. The plan that emerged from that meeting was the most ambitious human military operation in history. It would require every ship in the human fleet, every soldier trained in the new tactics, and every trick humanity had learned about fighting dirty. Operation Lazarus was about to enter its final phase, and the Devourers were about to discover that the Vega system, had become the center of the galaxy's attention. Every surviving alien species watched from their hiding places as the largest Devourer fleet ever assembled gathered around the system's dying star. Thousands of the dark ships floated in perfect formations, waiting for something that no one understood. Admiral Chris Taylor commanded humanity's response from the bridge of the converted battleship New Hope. Around him, strangest fleet in galactic history prepared for battle. There were no matching ship designs, no uniform weapons, no traditional battle formations. Cargo ships flew alongside mining platforms. Passenger liners had been turned into weapons carriers. Even old space stations had been equipped with engines and sent to join the fight. All ships report ready, announced Captain Rachel Stone from her position at the communications station. We have 237 vessels of various types. It's not much compared to what they have. Admiral Taylor looked at the tactical display showing the massive Devourer fleet. Our numbers don't matter if we're fighting smart. Remember, our job isn't to win a traditional battle. Our job is to confuse them until the real attack begins. The plan was more complex than anything humanity had ever attempted. For months, they had been secretly moving asteroids from the outer edge of the Vega system, using small mining ships. To slowly change their orbits, Devourers had ignored this activity. Seeing it as normal human resource gathering, Dr. Frank Miller worked in his laboratory ship, putting the finishing touches on his latest creation. The bioweapon he had developed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of trying to kill the Devourers directly, it was designed to make them sick and confused, interfering with their ability to adapt to new threats. Bioweapon is ready for deployment, he reported to Admiral Taylor. Remember, this will only work for about 10 minutes before they figure out how to counter it. 10 minutes is all we need, the Admiral replied. Engineer Lopez, are your gravity manipulators in position? Engineer Katie Lopez had spent weeks installing hidden devices throughout the asteroid field that humanity had been secretly creating. The gravity manipulators could change the direction and speed of the asteroids, turning them into guided weapons that the Devourers would never see coming. All gravity devices are active and ready, she confirmed. We can redirect the entire asteroid field on your command. Commander Alex Turner commanded a squadron of ships equipped with quantum disruptors, weapons that attacked the basic structure of matter itself. They had only been tested once, and no one was sure they would work against Devourer technology. Quantum Weapons are charged and ready, he reported. But Admiral, we still don't know if these things will have any effect on their ships. We're about to find out, Admiral Taylor replied grimly. All ships begin the deception attack. Make them think we're finally fighting like proper galactic citizens. The human fleet moved forward in what appeared to be a traditional battle formation. The largest ships formed a line at the front, while smaller vessels provided support from the rear. It looked exactly like the formations that had failed for every other species in the galaxy. The Devourers responded immediately, moving to counter what they thought was another conventional attack. Their ships had adapted to this kind of warfare months ago. They knew exactly how to handle enemy fleets that attacked in straight lines with predictable tactics. Enemy fleet is moving to intercept, reported Captain Stone. They're positioning themselves exactly where we want them. The first phase of the human attack began with traditional weapons. Plasma cannons and missile launchers fired at the Devourer ships, creating exactly the kind of battle that the aliens expected. The weapons worked for a few minutes, then became useless as the Devourers adapted their defenses. Conventional weapons are no longer effective, announced Commander Turner. The enemy has adapted as predicted. Perfect, Admiral Taylor said. With a smile, no, they think they understand what we're doing. Begin Phase 2. While the Devourers focused on the obvious fleet battle happening in front of them, Sergeant Mike Roberts led a small team of soldiers toward the enemy command ship. Their transport looked like a damaged cargo vessel, broadcasting distress signals, and appearing to drift helplessly through space. We're approaching the command ship, Mike reported quietly. They're ignoring us completely. Beginning boarding operation. Mike's team didn't try to fight the Devourers directly. Instead, they moved through the ship's corridors, planting small devices that would interfere with the aliens' communication systems. The goal wasn't to destroy the command ship, but to isolate it from the rest of the fleet. Communications disruption devices are in place, Mike announced. The command ship won't be able to coordinate with their other vessels for at least 20 minutes. Excellent work, Sergeant, Admiral Taylor replied. All ships, begin the real attack. Show them what happens when humans stop playing fair. The asteroid bombardment began first. Thousands of rocks that had been slowly moved into position over the past months suddenly changed direction, accelerating toward the Devourer fleet. The aliens tried to adapt their defenses, but they had never faced guided asteroids before, while the Devourers struggled to deal with the unexpected asteroid attack. Dr. Miller deployed his bioweapon. Invisible clouds of engineered bacteria spread through the enemy fleet, making the aliens sick and confused. Their adaptation systems tried to counter the biological attack, but the bacteria kept changing faster than they could adjust. Bioweapon is working, Dr. Miller reported. Enemy response time is down by 60%. Engineer Lopez activated her gravity manipulators, creating sudden changes in gravitational force throughout the battle zone. Devourer ships found themselves pulled in unexpected directions, colliding with asteroids and each other. Gravity attack successful, Katie announced. Enemy formation is breaking apart. Commander Turner chose that moment to test his quantum disruptors. The weapons fired beams of energy that attacked matter at the atomic level, causing Devourer ships to simply fall apart as their molecular bonds were disrupted. Quantum weapons are effective, Alex reported with surprise. The enemy can't adapt to attacks on basic physics. But the most devastating part of the human strategy was the confusion factor. The Devourers had learned to adapt to individual weapon types, but they couldn't handle 5 completely different attacks happening at the same time. Their adaptation systems overloaded, trying to counter asteroids, bacteria, gravity manipulation, quantum disruption, and communication interference all at once. Enemy fleet is in complete disarray, Captain Stone announced. They're attacking each other again. Some ships are trying to retreat while others are still trying to fight. Admiral Taylor watched the tactical display as the once mighty Devourer fleet tore itself apart. Ships that had seemed invincible were destroying each other in their confusion. The aliens' own strength had become their weakness. All human ships, cease fire, he ordered. Let them finish destroying themselves. The battle lasted another hour as the Devourers continued to attack their own vessels. When the chaos finally ended, less than a dozen enemy ships remained functional, and they were fleeing the system as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. Admiral called Dr. Amy Foster from the monitoring station. "I'm receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The surviving alien species are asking what happened here." Admiral Taylor activated the general broadcast system. "This is Admiral Chris Taylor of the human fleet. The Devourer threat has been eliminated. The galaxy is safe." A transmission came in from Elder Voss, the old Corvin who had warned humanity months ago. "How did you do it, Admiral? How did you defeat an enemy that destroyed 12 galactic civilizations?" Admiral Taylor thought carefully before answering. "Elder Voss, your people and the others called us cowards because we preferred peace to war. You said we lacked the warrior spirit because we chose negotiation over battle." He paused, looking at his crew of cargo ship pilots, miners, engineers, and scientists who had just accomplished the impossible. "You were right that we're not warriors in the traditional sense. But when we had to fight, we fought the only way we knew how. We didn't charge into battle seeking glory. We didn't follow ancient military traditions. We simply did whatever was necessary to survive." Another transmission arrived, this one from a Thraxian survivor. "But how did you defeat their adaptation ability?" "They countered everything we tried." "That's simple," Admiral Taylor replied. "You tried to find one perfect tactic and use it to win. We used dozens of imperfect tactics and accepted that most of them would fail. The difference is that we never fought the same way twice." As news of the victory spread through the galaxy, the few surviving members of the old Galactic Council sent a formal message to Earth. They offered humanity immediate membership in the reformed galactic government. Not as junior partners, but as the new military leaders of whatever civilization could be rebuilt. Ambassador Lisa Martinez, who had been rejected so humiliatingly months before, read the message aloud to the assembled human leadership. "The Galactic Council formally recognizes that humanity possesses the wisdom and courage necessary to guide the galaxy through future challenges." President Brooks smiled as she prepared humanity's response. "Tell them we accept."